Running your own business is kind of like a tough job all on its own. Trading card business, it's a whole different level, from my experience of overseeing the many various kinds of businesses in my line of work. So in order to get ahead, right, it's not just about selling more cards or not just about having the more flashy cards. It's a few little things, essential things they need to have in your business to basically get ahead compared to all the other peers. So in this video, I'm going to share with you my own personal essential tips that you guys can use as well for you to grow your business. Now, bear in mind, these tips are not quick fixes, right? They're not like 5 minutes things. These are hours of painstaking effort that needs to go in order for you to get ahead. Okay, so the first item I'm going to talk about is something I mentioned in one of my previous videos, and that is to maintain a dashboard. Now, what's a dashboard? A dashboard is basically a live snapshot of your business, and for trading cards specifically, it's a live snapshot of your inventory and your cash on hand. And these are the two key components that it's in the card business. So let's touch about inventory first. A lot of us maintain a very simple record keeping of the cards that we buy. I'm pretty sure that you guys actually do this as well. A simple spreadsheet on how much you paid for the card, when you bought it, what card it was. Maybe to some extent you elaborate further where you bought it from eBay, Fanatics Collect, or from Facebook. Okay, and perhaps you also maintain some record about selling, right? When do you sell the card? How much you sold it for? Maybe to whom you sell it for. Okay, so these are kind of like, most of us have these details, but when it comes to dashboard, for me, I actually take one step further. So for every single card I purchase, let's say from eBay, for example, okay, let's call it 2020 Anthony Edwards Flawless rookie auto number 25. Okay, take a simple example like that. Okay, I purchased it for $1,000. Besides the details that I mentioned earlier, right, I would have additional details such as where is the card at the moment. Okay, and what do I mean by that? I would actually track whether the card is it en route from the seller, or is the card in hand with me now? Is it en route to PSA, or is it with PSA, or is it already graded and is it on the way to the vault, or is it pending sale? If it's pending sale, is it on Fanatics weekly auction, or is it on maybe it's en route back to me for a card show? So I have all this amount of details in my dashboard, and it's not just about the quantity, right? I do track the values as well, so that at any one point in time, right, I would know how much in terms of value of cards that would have a PSA, how much of value I have in the vault, or that's actually en route, for me to actually have a better gauge on the value of my inventory overall. Okay, so it's not just about the total, how many cards I bought, or how many cards I hold in hand. I have 50 cards that's worth X, right? It's not about that, because at any one point in time, you would have cards in multiple places. So a dashboard will allow you to be able to see where all these cards are. Now, when you talk about selling as well, so you want to know how many cards you have sold, to whom you have sold, right? So these are important details. Of course, the price where you have to sold and profit. So that actually links to your P&L or your profit and loss statement. But for this case, to track the inventory, you have all the ins. You also need to capture the outs, right? So what I can advise is that as much level of detail as possible. Okay, so for me, the dashboard goes a bit further as well to categorize my inventory into 3 buckets. The first bucket is long-term investments, and I spoke about my 2003 exquisite Michael Jordan auto, right, BGS 9.5, and that's in my long-term bucket, which means that a card that I'm not selling at the moment. I don't foresee selling it in the near future until the time is right. Okay, of course, somebody would throw a stack of money at me and I felt that the offer is just overwhelming. Sure, by all means. Okay, but that category is kind of like, it's going to be put for a long-term hold. And I have 2 more categories, right? The second category is my card show inventory. So card show inventory means that these are the stuff that I've identified that I'll bring to the next card show I'm going. Now, I may not actually have plans to go for any card show at the moment, but these are the cards that have been earmarked for the next card show. It's important that you have some decent inventory set aside if you're planning to go to a future card show, because you don't want to be last minute, trying to pull whatever stock that you can, and may not be the best kind of inventory for that particular show. So what kind of inventory do I have set aside for card shows? Usually they are relating to the GOATs, the LeBrons, the Kobes, the Steph Currys. So these are the ones that no matter which card show you go to, will always see some sort of demand. Okay, so I do set a few cards as for card show inventory, and when I categorize any card as for card show inventory, which means that these cards does not fall into the next bucket, which is the flipping or the reselling part or the weekly auctions. So for me, normally if I have a card that's not under the earlier two categories, it's actually going into the weekly auction as fast as possible to keep the cards flowing. Okay, so I maintain the mindset that regardless of the player's status, right? He could be playing okay, he could be playing well, he could be playing not well, right? I generally want to keep on moving my cards. Okay, you may ask the question, why sell a player when he's injured now? Okay, for example, me, I bought a card like maybe 2 months ago, and it just got graded, and it's time to sell it. So yes, it's not the right time to sell, but generally I do not want to be holding cards that don't fall under the early two buckets. So I will do a video on the kind of cards that I buy that kind of like will shield me from these kind of situations, but I would say in 95% of all circumstances, right, any card that don't fall into the earlier two buckets would generally be sent directly to the weekly auctions. Okay, so we're pretty clear on the inventory part of the dashboard. Second part will be cash. Now, cash is what you think about how much money I have in the bank. It goes beyond that as well. So it goes to cash, not just how much money you have on hand. How about pending collections from sales, right? If I were to sell cards on the Fanatics Weekly, maybe I would sell, let's say, $10,000 of cards this week. But at any one point in time, right, I may not have all the 10,000 in hand. It could be maybe just 3,000 that has been collected, and that will go into my Fanatics Collect wallet, and still have 7,000 pending. Now, of course, this will sit as a cash equivalent or receivable, which is important to track as well, so that you know that it's a high chance that you have additional $7,000 of cash that's going to come in. And that's important to do your budgeting process, because if you're only looking at how much money they physically have in your bank account or in your Fanatics Collect wallet, right, it kind of like it will prevent you from making certain decisions, right? You may actually have more money than you think. Okay, or in the next example I'm going to share with you, your credit card bills. Like a lot of us forgot about our credit card bills, right? You're gonna make a purchase on eBay or on Alt or Goldin, and you swap your credit card. You're gonna put $5,000 in it, and you kind of like lost track of it. And then when the statement comes in, you make a minimum payments, and then pile on interest, and it goes way beyond our control. So any credit card expense relating to cards, if you bought a card with your credit card on Goldin, for example, right, you will need to track it on this dashboard as well to actually maintain how much money that's outstanding to the credit card company in relation to cards. Now, whether or not you make the payments, that's entirely up to you. For me personally, I'm very disciplined to ensure that all my credit card payments are paid up on time. So that's important. So for the cash part of the dashboard, you would have the cash on hand, you would have the receivables, and you have the outstanding payables, in this case your credit card payments, and you have a net cash position, right? And when you combine your net cash position and your total inventory on hand in terms of inventory valuation, I was talk about inventory valuation in one of my earlier videos, you would have the value of your business at any one point in time. That's what the dashboard would show you. And to see whether or not your business is growing, when you regularly update your dashboard with a weekly monthly, bi-weekly, that's entirely up to you. You would see incremental movements in your total valuation, and that would tell you whether or not your business is growing, right? Whether in terms of your cash balance or in terms of your inventory balance, and that would measure how much growth your business has shown, regardless of your sales and your profits, right? The returns will all translate back to cash eventually. So yes, you may look at your profit and loss statement and you're making, I'm making 20 grand because I sold, how much of cards, and then my cost was this and me. But in order to know whether or not your business has grown is to measure through the dashboard and the incremental growths when you check at different periods of time. Alright, so the second essential tip is discipline when you buy cards, right? I mentioned about buying cards in my early videos. I did a video on 24/7 buying cards, and that's literally what I do. And I won't be able to do that if I don't maintain some form of discipline to myself on the kind of cards that I buy, or setting some parameters around what kind of cards do I actually spend my money on. So everybody's different, but what's important is you guys need to have a plan, and you guys need to be disciplined to stick to that particular plan, right? So for me, example, all right, I spend time at least 6 to 8 hours a day at looking at cards, across the multiple platforms, eBay, Card Hobby, Fanatics Collect, Goldin, so many of these, right? And I spend many hours, up to 8 hours a day at looking at cards. Sometimes I recycle back looking at them again, even I've looked at it the day before, because I tell myself that I need to spend between 6 to 8 hours a day at looking at the variable cards, because sometimes maybe certain algorithms will not allow you to see certain cards. eBay does that once in a while, but most of the time, I want to have a recheck. I don't want to miss cards, especially those cards that I've already set particular filters for, because it's important to use filters to filter down the tens of thousands of cards that's available in the market. So when I set the filters, I want to make sure that I comb through every single card that's available within my filters, and then from there I will determine whether or not I will make a buying purchase, right? So when it comes to buying, what kind of price do I set? Of course, I look at comps, and of course I will set 2 levels of pricing. The first is what's my target price, like how much ideally I would like to buy this card for, and the second one will be my max price, so in this case the ceiling. So sometimes certain cards will go above the ceiling, but it's important that you maintain strict discipline on trying to stay within the band of these 2 prices. If you're lucky, you can get a card at your target price, which means that's kind of like essentially profit in your hand. And if you go to your max price, sometimes you're trading at a very risky situation. If, for example, anything happens to that player, or having the time in the market when you want to sell a card, you don't have that much margin to play with. So staying disciplined, learning how to let go certain cards. Sometimes you feel like, just yesterday, I had a chance to buy from auction a Ja Morant Flawless RPA from Card Hobby last night. It was sitting about like $8,000, was it $9,000 for till the very last minute, and I was gonna get ready to go in at a high bid about 10. But of course, end of the day, the final bid jumped up. I believe it was like 11 and a half. And now I could have gone to 12, perhaps, given that the comps for a vertical Ja Morant Flawless RPA, I think it was serial number 15, PSA 9, Auto 10, beautiful looking card. I could have gone higher than 12, right? It's still way below the comps of 15, but I decided not to, because I needed to maintain my discipline on when it comes to buying. And even if I pass on this Ja Morant, there are so many other cards to look out from in this market. And finally, the third tip I have for you guys is learn to be a smart shopper. All right, what do I mean by that? I'm pretty sure you have your parents, right, or your mom telling you how to be a smart shopper, at groceries or your Costco, coupons, deals, weekly deals, cutouts from the newspaper, right? And all those things that how you can save $1 here or $2 there, right? This is relating to buying groceries. For cards, there's no different. There are many ways for you to be a smart shopper. Right? Things like, for example, shipping costs. If there's a way for you to reduce your shipping costs, to combine shipping, to find different ways to ship at a more efficient rate, cheaper rates. If like for my case, if I'm sending to the US pretty often and I want the safest and fastest, obviously I'm going for the courier, I'm going for the FedExes, the DHL, and I would definitely want to negotiate to find the best rates I can. And if somebody were to offer me cheaper, right, and I would definitely consider. So that's one. How about rebates? Right, they're looking at, for example, COMC has Black Friday rebates, 5% cash rebates. Take advantage of that as well. PSA, they'll have all the year-end specials. Take advantage of the specials. You know they come during the seasonal time. So, for example, PSA would have, it's coming. They're going to have some modern subs at $16.99 or 1990s subs $16.99, where normally you would sell it, $18.99. $2 off per card, send 20 cards, $40 off. So be like the smart shopper like mom. Save $1 here, save $2 there. It all adds up, right? Even credit cards, right? If you're going to buy stuff with your credit card, you're going to get some points. Do convert the points into things that are useful. Don't go and swap it for a fancy restaurant meal, right? Maybe convert to miles that you could travel for shows, or convert them into gas for you to travel, to go, just to commute around, to go and buy a car. So things that's relating to your business. So all these little things adds up, and you find that you save, $30 here, $20 there, 1% here, 0.5% there. It all adds to your bottom line of your business. And I realized that when you start to dig in detail of each of the, you'll be very surgical about all these little expenses. You find that a little savings here can go a long way in your business in the long run. Okay, so to sum it up, these are my 3 tips on how to get ahead, whether or not you are actually running a business or doing some side hustle. So for me, it's not just about buying the right car, not just about buying the right player and selling at the right time. It's certain habits that you need to cultivate. And to recap, to maintain a dashboard, to basically have a snapshot of exactly where you are in terms of your cards and your cash, so that you can make better decisions. To be disciplined in your buying, so that you don't overspend, you don't go emotionally driven to buy some things that you later regret. And finally, how to be a smart shopper, to save these little bits here and there, and it all adds up when you look at your bottom line at the end of the year. So that's it. 3 things for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I do have more coming in the future. Do like, subscribe for this channel. Thanks for watching, guys. The next one. Kapos out.